When my mom divorced my stepdad, we had to move out of the house I grew up in, and into some income-based housing in the city. This was during the summer before my first year of college, and I worked at a nearby gas station to make money to take with me to school. I had worked there in high school too, and it was in a roughish part of town that got a lot of low-income and homeless people cashing in change for beer. I think this made me a little unfazed of sketchy people. During the first week after moving in, I went to make myself some SpaghettiOs for lunch, but realized we didn't have a can opener since we had moved. I figured one of my neighbors might let me borrow one. I left my apartment to find out. Toward the front of my building, there was a dude sitting on his patio in a lawn chair, drinking a beer. I greeted him, told him we had just moved in, and asked if I could borrow a can opener. He seemed really friendly, if sketchy, and excited to help. But he also kept making weird comments about a son he had that was my age, and how cute we would be together. He insisted I meet his son, and tried to get me to come inside to meet him, and get the can opener, of course. I was naive, not stupid. But I really wanted my food, so I agreed to wait at the door and say hello while he grabbed the can opener for me. It was kind of weird, but I met his kid, borrowed the can opener, and life went on. Except now they knew me. I had to walk by their apartment to get into mine, and they were always sitting out there, drinking, smoking, and yelling. And they often greeted me. I was polite, but not warm to them. We knew each other. One day, my boyfriend at the time and I had bought a bunch of groceries to make dinner. Everything was in paper grocery bags, so my boyfriend put them in a box he had in his trunk to help get everything in one trip. As we got out of the car, I heard my sketchy acquaintance yelling, but they did that often, and when I glanced I noticed there was a young child riding a bike in the road in front of their place. I assumed he was yelling at the kid to get out of the road, and paid no attention. As my boyfriend Tyler and I crossed the parking lot and started walking towards my apartment, suddenly the dude came running at us. He was yelling about us coming into his turf and paying tribute. I didn't even notice the knife until he held it to Tyler's face. He seemed to think we owed him money, and he was pissed about our groceries for some reason. He kept threatening to cut us up and send a message. Luckily, Tyler was super level-headed and just kept talking calmly to him. Tyler kept explaining, "It's just groceries, man. We don't want any trouble. I don't know what you're talking about." The guy was just getting more and more angry at this, and he kept getting louder and gesturing with the knife to make his point. Tyler was holding the box with both hands, so he couldn't defend himself. I was completely frozen and sure we were going to die. In all, this probably went on for 3 to 5 minutes, but it seemed like forever. Finally, another neighbor came out on his porch and yelled at the guy, "Cut that shit out, man. I got kids and shit. Those are kids, man. Chill the fuck out." The guy did not put down his knife. The yelling between them did call out the guy's kids. They ran out and grabbed him and pulled him back into the house. They shouted at us to get away from him, and that they didn't want any trouble, that their dad didn't mean anything. Meanwhile, he was fighting them to come stab us and yelling about how he was going to get us and we better have his money. As soon as the knife was a safe distance from Tyler's chest and stomach area, we ran to my apartment and immediately called my mom, who called the police and rushed home from work. The police came and took statements. Apparently, this guy had a record of dealing drugs and other crimes. They told us that maybe the guy thought we were selling on his turf. Box full of groceries equals meth supplies? Anyway, they arrested him. My mom was outside our house talking to the cops when they pulled this guy out of his house. His kids were screaming and following the cops, and then they all saw my mom. The kids started screaming at her, telling her she was a fucking uppity cunt, and threatening to beat the shit out of her. My mom doesn't take shit from anyone, so she was very classily yelling back that she would kill any motherfucker that threatened her kid, and calling them white trash junkie welfare rats. The cops are trying to intervene and disperse everyone to their apartments. As they pull the guy away toward the cop car, he screamed at my mom, "I'm going to have my people visit you real soon. You think you're tough. Let's see you kill the motherfuckers that send through your window for you and your little girl. Sleep tight, bitch. They're coming for you. I know people." And they put him in the cop car and everything was quiet. Tyler went home and we didn't see each other very many times after that. I later learned he was involved in some sketchy stuff, so maybe they did know each other, or have beef somehow. I'm still thankful for the way he handled everything, though. We got a restraining order and never saw the family again, which is pretty weird considering how close we all lived. I was really freaked out for about a month or so, worried that people were going to break into our house and rape and kill us. Then one day he came into my work while I was on counter. My coworkers knew about the incident, so when I told them, "That's him," they let me go hide. I thought he had come in for me, but he just bought a beer and some cigarettes. As he left, I moved and he saw me, but he didn't know who I was. He didn't recognize me at all. I'm not sure he even remembered the near stabbing. It was surprisingly comforting. I went off to college and the family was evicted for too many police responses to their area. He later went to jail for unrelated charges. This happened to me a few years ago, not too far from my house. And to this day, I still get chills every time I walk down that sidewalk alone. Summer was at an end, and my school was having a planning day, so I stayed home with my older sister. She had a terrible cold with high fever and an ugly cough. It worried me, so I called my mom on her lunch break and asked her what to do. She wouldn't be off work until 8 in the evening, since she had a meeting right after, so she told me to go to the drugstore and buy some cough medicine and something for the fever. Even though I'm very lazy, I obliged. I just wanted my sister to feel better. I live in the north side of Norway, so it didn't take long before it got darker out. It also rained cats and dogs outside, and it had been like that for many days, so it was pretty cold out. I thought to myself that I wouldn't be surprised if I caught a cold as well from this damn weather, but I sucked it up, put on my raincoat and boots, and went out into the rain. The drugstore is about 10 minutes away from my house by foot, which I used 15. I liked to walk slowly back then, not anymore. I got to the drugstore and bought the stuff I needed without any problems. Only the woman cashier was a bit chatty. I'm not a chatty person and I hate small talk, so it was kind of awkward. I eventually got out of there and began to walk home. I was about halfway there when I noticed a car coming up behind me, very slowly. I could hear the sharp sound of the brakes as it slowed down until it was just rolling beside me. I was already cold, but this made me freezing. The car was dark grayish with dimmed windows. It looked expensive enough to make my car-crazed sister drool, but I was too scared to care. I just kept walking with the car rolling beside me. The front window closest to me on the passenger side slowly rolled down, and I turned to see a guy in his 20s flashing me a smile. I could barely see the driver and the two others in the back. All guys. It made me want to puke. I quickly looked away. "Hey, sweetie, where you headed? Need a lift?" His voice made me want to cry. His tone was so sweet and taunting. He wanted to hurt me. I just knew it. "What you got in the bag?" he asks. I could see his hand in my peripheral vision, reaching out of the car and pointing at my bag. That's when I saw it. Something shiny and sharp in the driver's hand. I didn't even think. I just ran. There was a neighborhood on the opposite side of the road, so I ran past the front of the car, over the road, and into someone's back garden. It was a miracle I didn't get hit, that they were too shocked to speed up, but they soon snapped out of it. I could hear loud cussing in the background and the car stopping, then the car door slamming shut. I tucked my bag under my coat so it would make so much sound and kept running. I didn't think of knocking at any doors because I knew they would get me before anyone could open. I ran zigzag between the houses for them to lose sight of me and looked for somewhere to hide. It worked. I couldn't see them, but I knew they were still after me. I spotted a huge bushy area at a ditch that was pretty steep. I went for it. Slid down there like a fucking pro and crawled inside the biggest, thickest bush I could find. Then, I waited. It didn't take long for them to show up. I could see their shoes as they paced around me. "You let the bitch go." They stood right beside my hiding place. I had to bite down on my coat to stop myself from screaming. How could I know she was crazy enough to run like that? I recognized the voice of the one talking to me in the car. "She's fucking fast for being so fat." "Shut up. Search over there." They looked everywhere. They even searched through the bush right next to me. I could barely breathe and my heart beat so hard and fast. I was afraid they would hear it. But they finally gave up after what felt like hours, and cussed and yelled some more before they left. I waited there, listening for probably an hour before getting out of my hiding spot and knocking on the first house I saw. The couple living there were so kind to let me stay there and wait for my mom to pick me up after I called her and told her what happened. When we got home, my sister was waiting for us, angry that it took so long. I had to laugh. I never saw that car again, and I never called the police. Since this is Norway, and this area is so quiet, they could do anything else than write a report about it in a file and throw it away. They needed proof and a name. I couldn't remember their faces, so it was useless. My mom warned the people she knew about dark grayish cars with dimmed windows. Nothing more could be done. I just had to cope and get over it. By the way, now you know fat chicks can run too. Even from 4 guys with knives. How's that for a stereotype? I'm 16, and live with my mom and dad, plus my younger brother, who is 14. I greatly enjoy playing the guitar and practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I've done with my dad and brother for the past year. It's currently school holidays, so I will most of the time play guitar into the late hours of the night with my headphones on. This story is based on one of those particular nights. The town we live in is peaceful and trustworthy, so we only lock the front door because, well, who would break in? There's 3 trained martial artists living here. The back door to my house is into the laundry, which is sharing a wall with my bedroom, and they are connected by a hallway. So, I'll get to the story. It's about 12:15 a.m. and I'm playing guitar. My parents and brother are in bed and I'm doing the usual, watching YouTube guitarists while playing my favorite riffs. This one in particular being Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. Things are going alright, but I'm thirsty, so I go to the kitchen. The window above the sink overlooks my whole street, which I look out of as I'm drinking a glass of water. Might sound a bit cliche, but I saw the shady-looking dude talking on the phone walking up the street towards my house. I stood in the kitchen as I watched him walk. When he got past where I could see, I moved into the dining room to look on the other side. I see him walk away, no longer on the phone. I didn't think of anything of it, turned the lights off and went back to my room. Fast forward 10 minutes, I'm back in my room doing what I was doing before. This time I'm playing through CKY 96, Quite Bitter Beings. And just as I finish and my guitar stops making noise, I heard scratching at the back door. It's a windy night, so I just brush it off as the wind blowing the plants outside into the wall. But then I heard the fucking door open. I guess whoever it was didn't see if it was locked first and tried to unlock it or something. But whatever happened, there was someone I didn't know in the room next to me. I had no idea what to do. Sure, I know my way around a fight when necessary, but I'm 16. What if this guy has a knife? Or if not, what if he's 6'6" and weighs 110 kilograms? I heard him open the laundry door and enter the hallway. He made his way to my bedroom door and just stood there, listening. I had to think fast, so I unplugged my headphones, cranked my amp up to 100 watts and played the Sweet Child of Mine riff as loud as I could. I guess he got spooked because he bolted straight out the back door. My angered father storms to my bedroom to ask what the fuck is going on. So I explain and show him dirty footprints that prove the intruder's route. Needless to say, I lock the doors from now on. As a humanist, I try to look for opportunities to help my fellow humans, to be a living font of kindness and compassion, hopefully leaving the world nicer than when I found it. But there's a thin line between kindness and naivety. I also learned this the hard way. 3 to 4 years ago I was 24. Female, recently single and living happily alone. I left work around 3 a.m., the joys of the service industry, and had just given a ride home to a coworker who closed with me. It wasn't a bad part of town per se, but not the greatest. Whatever, time to head home and get some sleep myself. Patiently waiting at a red light, streets are void of cars and people, when I notice a man and woman stumbling down the sidewalk to my right. The man knocks on my car window and I flinch. My car doesn't have electronic anything, and my window was already down an inch. But maybe they need help or something? Why else would they be staggering around at 3 a.m.? Her ankle is broken. She can't walk. The lady's kind of swaying just out of my view, moaning either in pain or inebriation. I frown. I can call someone if you like. Or there's a gas station over there. Maybe you could... The guy opens my front passenger door. My coworker hadn't locked it. And the woman staggers into my car. It happened so fast, I was stunned. Even more so when the guy squeezed in beside her, 2 people somehow fitting into the front seat of my Toyota Corolla. I was supremely conscious of the woman's leg pressing against my purse at her feet. Inside was my phone, Kindle, and wallet with all the hard-earned money I'd made the past 2 weeks of waiting tables, my rent, and more. They reek of alcohol, and their eyes have this glaze to them. They are high as fuck. The guy tells me, "You're gonna drive us to the Kroger." "You mean the Walmart just up the street?" "Drive! Go! Drive!" "Oh, okay," I stammered and complied. Were they armed? I didn't want to find out. The guy was drinking something out of a bottle in a brown paper bag like a class act. What would they do if I refused? They were clearly in an altered state, unpredictable, dangerous. Don't escalate, don't provoke. I pressed my lips into a forced smile. I decided I would be as calm and polite as I could manage, and maybe they'd have second thoughts about murdering someone so nice. Or at least feel a little bad about it. Fuck. They tried to engage me in conversation as we drove. The woman seemed about 40, leathery skin, and quite manic. She would rattle off schizophrenic nonsense one minute, then become incredibly lucid and well-spoken on a complex topic, like a computer science, for the next. Watching her go back and forth between the 2 states was truly surreal. She told me I didn't need to be scared. They weren't going to hurt me. Just needed a ride. I nodded and smiled, and continued to scream internally. The man seemed much older than she was, in his 60s, bald with wisps of white hair. Maybe her uncle or father? He would only speak up to give turn-by-turn directions, and would absolutely lose his shit at me if I so much as changed lanes unexpectedly. As the neighborhood deteriorated around us, I desperately scanned the roads for a police car on patrol. I would call attention to myself somehow, run a red light, honk, swerve at them. Anything to draw attention and I would be saved, and no such luck. My passengers were becoming increasingly agitated and paranoid as we neared our destination. They could sense my fear, because the woman began to play with my hair and stroke my cheek. "Hey, don't be scared. I said we're not going to hurt you. You're such a nice girl," she cooed in my ear. "You so nice. Such a pretty white girl. Holy shit. Holy shit." The man chuckled. "I see the Kroger across the street, but..." "No!" they scream at me. "Turn left!" Into the sketchiest apartment complex ever. My heart sank. This is how it ends, I thought. Raped or dead or both. They have me idle in the parking lot and the guy gets out. "I'm gonna be right back. Make sure she doesn't go anywhere. We got more stops after this." Oh, hell no. The woman stays with me in the car and the guy disappears into one of the units. This is obviously a drug deal. I idly wonder if I'm guilty of a crime now, an accessory to something. I wonder if they try and get me to come to party with them later or some shit. Not going to happen. I knew that if they got me out of my car, it'd be the beginning of the end. Once the man leaves, the woman spreads out in the passenger seat. I think she's just making herself comfortable until her legs part suggestively, and she begins to sexy slow dance my 2008 Toyota Corolla to My Immortal. She looks over at me with her most lustful set of bedroom eyes. She bites her lip and her hands travel up her thighs. She asks me, "You like what you see?" Is this really happening? Did she just proposition me while sexy dancing to Evanescence? As if this night could not get any more bizarre. Luckily, my poker face is fucking strong and I suppress any reaction. I break into an apologetic smile. "Oh, no, but thank you. I don't swing that way." I hastily switch one of my everyday rings to my wedding finger and hold it up with a regretful smile. I'm married, you see, and my husband is expecting me home soon. Her seductive demeanor drops like a curtain, her face twisting with fury and indignation. What do you think I am? Think I'm some hooker? It wasn't like that. I didn't mean it like that. What the absolute fuck? Oh, no. I didn't think that at all. I'm sorry. I'm just very tired because I worked all day. It's late. She stares at me hard, eyes wide and struggling to focus, until her face breaks into another wide manic smile. She slumps back into the chair, seemingly satisfied with my answer, and we share an uncomfortable silence. I had to do something. No way was I going to see how this night played out with me and the 2 of them. My eyes dart to the unit the man went into, and I lean over to the woman, my face a mask of concern. "Hey, he's been gone a long time. Do you..." Do you think you should check on him? Make sure he's okay? Her eyes narrow suspiciously, and she gives me a wry smile. You won't just drive away? I summoned every ounce of angelic calm and poured it into my voice. Of course not. You promise? Yes, I smiled warmly. I promise. Dying a little more inside. Imagine my surprise when it actually worked. Watch her get out of the car and close the door. I fucking book it. Rubber screeching, heart pounding. It's dark, so I don't bother looking back. I try to leave the apartment complex, but there was only one exit, the way we came in, which is right where I dropped them off. I pull into random parking spots several buildings away and turn off my car, ducking in the seat and calling. Well, should have called the police then and there, but I didn't feel like I was out of the woods yet. But I was safe-ish, and I called a friend and broke down into tears explaining everything over the phone. Once the adrenaline wore off, I started my car back up. No sign of anyone watching the gate or looking for me. I make my getaway and arrive home safely about 30 minutes later. Called the police then, and an officer was sent over to take my statement. I didn't expect anything to come of it, but wanted the event on record in case there was retaliation. They knew where I worked because of my uniform, which also had my name prominently displayed, as well as what car I drove. The officer asked where I ended up taking them, and from my vague description, he instantly knew the location. High crime area, a lot of drug-related incidents. Great. I still drive that 2008 Corolla. My next car will have electronic locks. This happened just last night, and honestly, I'm still a little shaken up over it. I'll try to retell the tale exactly as it happened, but my fear is sure to have fudged my memory a bit. I work evenings as a dispatcher in a medium-sized Midwestern city. I was driving home at 2 a.m. when I stopped for gas. In retrospect, it was stupid to have stopped at all. The gas station was poorly lit and completely empty of any other customers. But I knew the shady areas of town, and this was not usually one of them. As I was pumping gas, I noticed a middle-aged black woman sitting on the curb across the parking lot. It was a cold night, and it had just started raining. The woman was not wearing weather-appropriate clothing, so she was drenched. When the woman saw that I was watching her, she called out to me from across the parking lot. My second of many stupid decisions that night was choosing to engage with her. I was worried for her, so I approached her to see what sort of help I could offer. Hi, beautiful. I'm just trying to get home, but no one will help me, she said. I'm trying to get to City A, but the cab ride is $60, and I only have $40. Can you help me? I don't usually give money to panhandlers, but this woman seemed genuine. The weather was terrible, and my job centers around helping people. So I agreed. I told her I didn't have any cash, but if she would come with me inside, I'd take some money out of the ATM and give her a few dollars. But the ATM wasn't working. I apologized and told her that there was nothing else I could do for her. She followed me back outside, idly chatting with me as I opened my driver's door to get in. And then she got in my car. I was too shocked to really say anything. I sat staring at her as she buckled herself into the passenger seat. As soon as she got into my car, her demeanor changed entirely. She no longer seemed forlorn as much as she did extremely excited and restless. Just take me to my aunt's house, she said. She can give me money. Of course, alarm bells are going off in my head. Although my first instinct is to tell her to get the fuck out of my car, my gut tells me that that would be dangerous. She'd already proven to be unpredictable. She seemed to be high, and I didn't know if she had any weapons on her. Forcing her out of my vehicle, I thought, had the potential to elicit a violent reaction. Where are you asking me to take you? I finally said. Just start driving, and I'll tell you where to turn. No. If you want me to consider driving you somewhere, I need you to tell me where we're going, I say, with no real intention of driving her anywhere. Don't worry, honey. I'm not one of the bad blacks. I'm not going to rob you or nothing. Just drive. No, I repeated. What is your aunt's address? Okay, it's on Street A. What's the house number? As I was asking her questions, she got really agitated. We still had not left the gas station parking lot. I considered getting out of the car and going into the gas station for help, but A, she had seemed to know and be friendly with the one attendant that was inside when I tried to get money, and B, I wasn't about to leave her alone in my car. Finally, she snapped at me and said, Why are you asking me so many questions? I thought we were friends. You don't trust me? Is it because I'm black? I work at a police department, I said. It's my job to ask these sorts of questions. She flipped the fuck out. She started yelling at me about being a snitch, about trying to get her in trouble, just in general losing her damned mind. At this point, I'm more scared than ever. I just wanted her gone, but my instinct still told me asking her to get out of my car wouldn't work. So I decided to take a risk. I'm not a police officer. I just work at a police department. Why don't I take you to Walmart and see if they have an ATM that works? My idea was to get her out of my car as peacefully as possible, then lose her in the store. She liked my idea and immediately calmed down. I knew that driving off with this woman in my car was incredibly risky, but it seemed like my best option at the time. As we were driving, she keeps talking to me. Her thoughts were erratic, bouncing all over the place. It sometimes seemed difficult for her to follow through on a thought. But this is roughly how our conversation went. I'm glad we're friends now. I have about 5 or 6 people trying to get me. I'm going to come to your work tomorrow so we can go arrest them together. Okay. We can talk about that tomorrow. Tonight, you said you're trying to get home? Yes, honey, I'm trying to get to City B. City B? I thought you said you needed to go to City A. Yeah, City A, that's what I meant. That's why the cab ride is $40. It's far away. The cab ride is $40? Yeah, baby. You said you have $40. I do, baby. I have $40, but the cab ride is $60. Then there was silence. Are you sure you can't take me to my aunt's house? She lives close by on Street B. I thought you said she lived on Street A. No, baby, I meant Street B. But it don't matter, because she won't give me money anyway. You sure you can't just take me to City A? It was terrifyingly obvious that this woman was utterly full of shit, because the details of her story were constantly changing. When we pulled into the Walmart parking lot, she finally got out of my car, only after I got out first, and followed me into the store. I told her before we went to find an ATM, I needed to use the restroom. My plan was to call the police from inside a stall, but she followed me into the bathroom, and that's when things got really weird. She grabbed the crook of my arm and whispered into my ear, "If you don't got no money to give me, that's okay. But let me ask you something, sweetie. Do you like getting your pussy ate?" I told her no as forcefully as I could manage, bolted into a stall, and locked the door as fast as I could. As soon as I had a barrier between us, I said, "You know, I have some friends at the police department that can probably help you better than I can. I'm just going to call them and we can figure this out together." Again, at the mention of the cops, she started screaming at me. I just kept reiterating that the police would help her. She snapped at me that she was just going to leave and stormed out of the bathroom. But it wasn't over. I waited to make sure she was really gone. Sure enough, not 60 seconds after she left, she came back into the bathroom and started banging on the stall door. She said something that scared me more than anything else. "Hey, come back to your car with me. I left my beer in your car." I blatantly tell her that no. I saw her get into my car and she had absolutely nothing with her other than the clothes on her back. After that, she left the bathroom again and didn't come back. I waited a good 5 minutes before exiting the bathroom. I immediately found a manager who called the police for me. Thankfully, I was in a different police jurisdiction from the one I work in, because I was mortified at how entirely stupid I had been the whole night, and would have died of embarrassment if any of my coworkers had responded. The officer that responded took my statement and advised me to be more careful in the future. He said that sometimes panhandlers turn violent, and that just recently there had been a report of a woman who matched my description, assaulting a good Samaritan that had stopped to try to help her. I definitely learned a lesson on stranger danger, and I'm lucky to have come out unscathed. I'm glad my stupidity didn't kill me. So Reddit, the next time you try to help a stranger late at night, don't. Hollowkeez here. I hope these stories did it for you. I even thought they were pretty unsettling this time. There were some parts where my pacing was off though. I'm sorry about that. I usually record at night, as there are less distractions, but it was the middle of the day this time, and so there were quite a few this time around, which had me worried for interruptions in the midst of recording. Even now, While recording this outro, there were some dogs that wouldn't shut up, and I had to stop what I was doing until they were done barking. Oh, I decided to save a particular interruption I had. Here it is. Yeah. Now you know what I have to go through whenever I tried to record during the day. Keep in mind, I didn't have my windows open or anything like that, and the mic still picked all that up. People around here seem to love driving the loudest vehicles. Anyway, I will definitely be recording at night all the time from now on. If it's fear you're after, welcome home.